Hello students. Today I am going to discuss about the topic methods of data collection. Today's module contains introduction, types of data and methods of data collection. For data to be useful and to be organized and to get some logical conclusion, a statistical investigation requires systematic collection of data so that all relevant groups are represented in the data. So let's first try to understand what data is. Data are plain facts, usually raw numbers. Think of a spreadsheet which is full of numbers but with no meaningful description. In order for these numbers to become information, they must be interpreted to have a certain meaning. So, data is collection of facts such as numbers, words, measurements, observations, or even just description of things. Now, the data can be classified into qualitative and quantitative. Now, qualitative data is descriptive information. That means it describes something. And quantitative data is numerical information, some numbers. So here you can see that the data classified into qualitative and quantitative. And again, the quantitative data is subclassified into discrete data and continuous data. So let's understand it in detail. Now, qualitative data is descriptive and conceptual. It can be categorized based on traits, characteristics. So the qualitative data can be used to ask the question, why? And the qualitative data can be generated through text and documents, audio and video recordings, images and symbols, interview transcripts and focus group, or observations and notes. Here again, you can see that the qualitative data is about, like in this case in a bookshelf, of course it is made of wood. It was built in Italy. Its color is deep brown. It has golden knobs. So these informations are descriptive information. So this we can say they are qualitative data. Now, quantitative data can be counted. It can be measured and expressed using numbers. It can be used to ask the questions like how much, how many, and followed by conclusive information. So, quantitative data can be generated through tests, through experiments, through surveys, through market reports. The quantitative data can again be subclassified into discrete data and continuous data. So discrete data can only take certain values like whole numbers. So discrete data is just the data that cannot be broken down into smaller parts. And this type of data consists of integers, either can be positive or negative numbers, and is finite. That means it reaches a limit and it is counted. Like for example, how many change you have in your pocket? There's a certain number. Similarly, how many iPhones were sold last year will give us information regarding a certain number. So this is a discrete data. But continuous data take any value, that means a range, and continuous data is measured. Like for example, the time it takes to write an article, or your weight, your age, something like that. That means your weight can be 32.6 or 35.1. It cannot always be a whole number. So these kind of data we call continuous data. So here again, the quantitative data in the same case of a bookshelf can be the height of it. It is 3 feet tall, its weight, how many books that is there, how many shelves this bookshelf contain, are all a definite number. So this is an example of quantitative data. The data can again be classified into two important types: primary data and secondary data. Primary data is the data that is collected by the investigator himself for the purpose of a specific inquiry or study. And such data is original in character. It is the first-hand data collected by the researcher for an immediate purpose of the study. And it is generated by surveys conducted by individuals or institutions, like that. And secondary data is the data which has already been collected by others, and it has already passed through the statistical process. A researcher, as per the requirement of the study, may decide on the use of either primary data or secondary data or both. So let's find out what are the different methods of collecting primary data. So it can be interview method, or by observation, or by schedule, or by questionnaire. So what is an observation method? In the observation method, only the present or current behavior can be studied. A casual observation could enlighten the researcher to identify the problem, and it is the least expensive mode of data collection. Like for example, the observation could be a particular traffic pattern in a particular city, or the length of the queue in front of a food chain, or can be the condition of road, or the condition of building, or can be the price and advertising activity of the competitor. So all these information can be collected through observation. So the filtering of observation is the world we observe different things, and what we hear, what we see, through all these senses, we process this information and then record it, which we call the official observation. Now, what is the interview? The interview method of collecting data, it involves the presentation of oral or the verbal stimuli, and in reply in terms of oral or verbal responses. So these method can be used through personal interview, or telephonic interview. Now, the next method, that is questionnaire method. A questionnaire is sent usually by post to persons concerned with a request to answer the question and return the questionnaire. So a questionnaire which consists of number of questions printed in a definite order, and the respondents have to answer the question on their own. Similarly, schedules. Now schedules are the form or containing set of questions like questionnaire, but which are being filled by the enumerators who are being specifically appointed for the purpose. So a researcher or an enumerator appointed collect the data through schedules. Now the enumerators go to the field, put questions to the respondent and fill the schedules. So for all this, the enumerators need to be properly trained so that the information that is being collected is correct information. Now let's understand what is secondary data. So the secondary data are the statistics that already exist, and they have been gathered not for immediate use. So this can be described as those data that have been compiled by some agency other than the user. So the secondary data can be classified as internal secondary data or external secondary data. Now, what is an internal secondary data is? An internal secondary data is a part of the company's record for which the research is already conducted. So that internal data are those that are found within the organization. Like for example, the sales numbers, the credit outstanding or the call records of salespersons, the daily production report, the monthly collection report, all these are the example of internal secondary data. Now, external secondary data are the data collected by the researcher from outside the company, and this can be divided into 4 major parts. This can be census data or individual project report that is being published, or the data collected for sale on a commercial basis, what we call the syndicated data. The data can be miscellaneous data also. So, thank you for watching this.